CBDC adoption, do we know? I mean, nobody knows, but can you speculate as to when it's coming to the US?
I think my best guess, and obviously if I get more information, then I'll update my opinion. But my best guess is we'll get a blueprint, sort of an infrastructure, within the next.
What are the major news driving the Bitcoin and altcoin markets? We're here with an expert on Bitcoin and altcoin. His channel is called Altcoin Daily. Austin Arnold is here. Austin, I'm sorry your brother couldn't join us today, but you are one half of Altcoin Daily, one of the largest crypto channels in the world. Big fan of your work. I've been watching you guys since actually before I met you. So welcome to my show, the Daily Berlin Report. Pleasure to host you today.
My brother sends his regards. Happy to be here. The Altcoin Daily community is with you, David.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. Let's talk about recent Bitcoin news. You made a tweet earlier, and I'm just going to pull it up for the audience. You were talking about how Bitcoin dominance has never been stronger. And I'd like to tie in this theme with the price of Bitcoin up 40% on the month, up a lot more on the year. I'll put up a chart. And, people are wondering what's been driving this rally. Obviously, there's a correlation with the stock markets, and the stock markets, as you know, did very well in quarter 1. But we had a lot of FUD over the last couple of weeks. We had Silicon Valley collapse, Silicon Valley Bank, rather, collapse. We had Silvergate collapse. All these were crypto-related banks. And so despite all this, Bitcoin continued to rally. Why?
Bitcoin is going up, simply put, because there's more people buying than selling. And when we look at buying, you got to look on the demand side and the supply side. And the cool thing about cryptocurrency is it's an open public blockchain. So there's all these data and analytic aggregators like Glassnode. And they just put out a recent study showing that in the last 2 years, so essentially since the bear market started, 50% of the Bitcoin circulating supply has not moved. That tells you that while, yes, in any bull market, there'll be speculators, there'll be traders, they'll jump in, they'll get scared, they'll go out. 1 out of every 2, 50% are not shook enough to sell their Bitcoin. So we're seeing just sort of this grassroots hodl belief in this asset, saying it's not going away, Bitcoin. And then on the demand side, in the last multiple months, we've seen cracks in the traditional system. We've seen these banks, these middle or smaller banks, realize that they're lending out people's assets, fractional reserve system. Everybody's becoming an expert on that in 2023. And people are realizing that, damn, what is the safest place to store my money? And I'm not suggesting, David, that everybody saw these banks collapsing and thought, wow, I got to go out and buy Bitcoin. That's not the time you put your money into a speculative asset when you start to see cracks in the system that you trusted. But what that is doing is opening up conversations across all the boardrooms across the United States and possibly globally, saying, is there a better way? Is there some hedge? Is there something? And just from an awareness factor, Bitcoin is getting into a lot of these conversations.
Austin, what's the sentiment you've been hearing on your own channel? And we'll get your own take as well about the Bitcoin price. I mean, is this momentum sustainable, you think? Do people on your show give price forecasts?
People, listen, our channel, Altcoin Daily, we make sure we get those price targets. That's half the fun of cryptocurrency, to speculate, hey, where could this asset be in a year, in 5 years, right, et cetera. Right now, and not so much in the last 3 months, but in the last year, we've had, the Michael Saylors, the Mark Cubans, more the artists like the Spike Lees, the Raoul Pauls, et cetera. And right now for 2023 in general, the sentiment is still a lot of, hey, we're in crypto spring. It's not really crypto summer. The speculation is that we will not see a new all-time high this year. Of course, the markets are the true test. And a lot of people are comparing this to 2019, where a big narrative of 2019 was trade war with China. And that's why Bitcoin pumped in the year after the bear market. Right now, we have traditional finance cracks in the system, so Bitcoin is pumping. My best guess, David, is that just like every halving, even if Bitcoin demand stays the same for the next year, and we get that halving, like every 4 years that we do get, and supply faucet gets cut in half, if demand just stays the same, price goes up, basic supply and demand. So to me, that's going to be the ultimate driving factor for Bitcoin.
Wait, you're saying we're in a spring? I missed the memo. When do we finish winter? When did that?
David, step outside. It's beautiful out. No, the truth is, listen, there's a big unknown in the markets right now, you could say, hey, we're not truly entering a spring until the Fed pivots. Because if you look at back year after year after year, the Fed is truly in control if they're going to be aggressive, hawkish, or dovish with their rate hikes. So if you're playing sort of the more broader macro trends, then obviously we got to wait to see what the Fed does. But the innovation in cryptocurrency is not stopping.
This wave of momentum, as I said, correlation with the stock markets. Two-part question: do you see this correlation being a continuous driver of Bitcoin, at least for the foreseeable future? And if so, I guess it ties into your broader outlook on equities. What's your view here?
I think in the smaller timeframes, Bitcoin is 100% correlated. If the stock market were to tank hard, Bitcoin, of course, would be brought down hard. Much like in the 2008 housing crisis, gold tanked along with all of markets when that happened. The only difference was as markets started to recover, people put their money in gold first after 2008 as that hedge against the system. So I think on smaller timeframes, all markets are correlated, especially a nascent space like cryptocurrency. Bigger timeframes, I think, and maybe this is just my bias, but I think we're going to start to see the breakaway in this next decade while we see traditional finance, people not have so much confidence in what they thought they knew.
Okay, so I want to ask you about the altcoin market and its relationship with Bitcoin. Generally speaking, does Bitcoin lead the altcoin market or vice versa? I know I'm grouping in a bunch of stuff. The altcoin market is huge, thousands of coins, but let's just take maybe the top 20 or at least the ones that you cover on your channel. Do you see a clear relationship or not so much?
I think the smartest thing that you can do as an investor, from me, is in bull markets, you want to bet on altcoins outperforming, and in bear markets, you want to bet on Bitcoin outperforming. So if you personally think we're still in bear, then you want to bet on Bitcoin. If you personally think we're transitioning into bull, then those altcoins are going to start to break away. Me, I'm more sort of a risk averse investor, even though I'm a big believer in crypto. But I think that, we're seeing Bitcoin dominance rise now. We're seeing Ethereum basically hold its own, but we're still seeing altcoins drain back into Bitcoin. That's one of the reasons that Bitcoin dominance is holding up, even if prices is wavering. So I think that it's still, until the surest case, and you're not going to catch the exact bottoms, and you're definitely not going to catch the exact tops, but the surest way to bet on are we going to have altcoin season or not is when Bitcoin breaks its all-time highs and then possibly a retest and then a breakout. That's usually when the altcoins really fly.
Okay, so you're not super bullish that you think we're going to reach new all-time highs this year, but you're not super bearish either. Well, that's a realistic view, Austin. This is my opinion on the future of Bitcoin, and please, disagree with me if you think I'm wrong. But I think that Bitcoin's correlation with the stock markets, like you said, are going to be tight for the foreseeable future. I'm 100% in agreement with you there. What needs to happen for this correlation to diverge is Bitcoin needs to be adopted by basically. It needs to be used for anything besides investments and speculation, because the fact that it's correlated with stock markets shows me that currently it's being used primarily as an investment and speculation vehicle and trading vehicle. In the future, perhaps we start using it for other things, then we'll see a divergence in the price and its utility becomes different from a purely speculative play. What could that adoption look like? What could we use Bitcoin for, if not just to make money?
David, I think those insights are 100% right in my view, meaning that the minute that Bitcoin is decoupled and doing its own thing and not correlated, that's pretty much close to the time that we're going to reach mass adoption. Because it is so volatile, because it is such a new space, we are correlated, but that is the opportunity as well. What will bring us to that adoption? I think it's very different between Bitcoin and altcoins. For Bitcoin, it's a working product today. I think it's a way to hedge against inflation. Bitcoin flew the most in 2020 and after, when they printed all that money. People saw Bitcoin to do exactly what it was invented to do, hedge against inflation. So I think that as we start to see these governments get either more responsible fiscally or less responsible fiscally, now just based on history, the lawmakers, the policymakers tend to favor short-term gain as opposed to long-term, meaning, oh, they'll print money, they'll do what's best for their people in the short term, so people like them, as opposed to, being fiscally responsible, then I think Bitcoin is going to do exactly what it was made to do. And, I think the next step is start to see Bitcoin as a hedge in, companies like a MicroStrategy, Galaxy Digital, et cetera. We're seeing those. I think that'll increase. And then obviously El Salvador started the trend with small countries.
I remember early 2021, actually late 2020, everybody was coming on media, not just just with me, but the mainstream media as well, CNBC, Fox, it just being extremely bullish. You've got the Mike Novogratz of the world coming on. I think it was like 400,000 Bitcoin or 300,000 was his call. I heard a lot of those from different people. Are you starting to see that? Is that the sentiment right now? Is that reemerging? I bring that up because I think you covered it on your channel, the $1 million Bitcoin in 90 days call. I think the precondition was hyperinflation, but I'll let you comment on that and whether or not you think that's a realistic forecast. Not even for 90 days, but just for maybe 90 months.
I think Bitcoin is only going up because I believe fiat is only going down, given enough time. So I think that $400,000 Bitcoin, not that crazy if you're willing to wait. The only speculation in my mind is how long, once you start the money printer, these governments usually don't turn it off because they're favoring short-term gains. So, the short answer is I like to cover Bitcoin price predictions in our channel, quote other people, other experts in the room. I think for me, the next step is 100,000. Even though that was maybe a meme from last cycle, after the next Bitcoin halving, I think it's not that crazy. And then what's beyond that, if you believe Bitcoin is just as valuable as gold, like a Cathie Wood, then you would say, wow, then it's at least going to reach that market cap. That's around a $500,000 Bitcoin. If you think it's more valuable because it's easier to transact, it's provably mathematically scarce instead of gold. We don't know how much gold there is in space or in the earth, technically. If you think it's more valuable, then it goes above $500,000 eventually.
Speaking of regulation, Austin, I want to ask you about Operation Chokepoint 2.0, which I believe is a term coined by Nick Carter of Castle Island Ventures, and it references the original Operation Chokepoint, which goes back to the Obama days of when the government cracked down or leaned on banks that served gun manufacturers and other industries the government didn't like at the time. And so the theory is that Signature Bank was shut down by the government after the bank run because it had ties to cryptos. Now, is this just a conspiracy theory, or do we have any evidence to support the notion that the government is actually choking liquidity from the cryptoverse by shutting down banks related to cryptos?
I believe Operation Chokepoint is 100% real. I think for the points Nick Carter mentioned, it's pretty obvious when you look at the banks they shut down, including Signature Bank, which really wasn't meeting the same criteria that the Silicon Valley banks were meeting in terms of potential collapse. Yet they chose to shut it down because of crypto. The difference, David, I feel, is a lot of people attribute this conspiracy malice. They're trying to go after cryptocurrency. For me, I think it's more 50-50, half malice, half ignorance, meaning that, yes, there are a lot of regulators that see, and they pretty much saw, starting 3 years ago till today, that, wow, cryptocurrency is not going away. It's going to be part of our daily lives in some sense. It has the potential to disrupt, revolutionize so many aspects of finance, data, and beyond. So rather than say to the retail investors, the lowly retail investor like you, like me, hey, it's okay, cryptocurrency is going to be here. They're saying, hey, we don't know about this, back off behind the doors, in my opinion, while they take out their positions, while they just, if nothing else, get the infrastructure to realize, hey, we have to be part of this somehow. We're seeing this from big players like Google taking out nodes in certain protocols like Theta, like Tezos, I believe. So there is a certain amount of malice that you see. Wow, we better go after these crypto banks. If regular banks are starting to collapse, then we better make sure the crypto thing's taken care of. That's the malice. I think the other ignorance is so many people still just don't understand cryptocurrency. They almost see it as a meme, a bubble, Beanie Babies. So they're just choosing to shut it down to protect themselves. They're like, oh, we're all these speculative smaller banks are collapsing. We're just assuming this one's going to be next because they do bank crypto companies. So we better take care of that. The crazy thing is, David, people thought that crypto was bad for the traditional banking system. Turns out the traditional banking system was a negative for crypto.
The timing certainly seems to be suspicious. At the same time, we're seeing Signature Bank being shut down because there was a bank run. I mean, it was because the regulators randomly shut it down. But at the same time, we're seeing Binance sued by CFTC a few weeks ago. Coinbase was sent a Wells notice by the SEC. Jake Paul, Lindsay Lohan, celebrities getting sued. So timing is suspicious. Right? I mean, suspicious. I'm not saying there was a correlation, doesn't mean causation, but have you seen any news or reports or evidence to suggest that there's a reason why everyone's being cracked down at the same time?
Coinbase getting that Wells notice or just getting reprimanded, in trouble in some sense, to me, that's one of the biggest indicators that there might be something bigger going on. There might be a conspiracy, because that's very different than the Lindsay Lohans getting in trouble for shilling, getting paid and not disclosing and shilling coins. That should happen. That's good for the space. But if Coinbase is going down, damn, they're the most compliant in the US. They tried the hardest. They filed, they're a publicly traded company. They had so many meetings and filings with the SEC. You can look at old tweets from Brian Armstrong saying, hey, we mentioned staking, the term staking, in our public filing. I think he said, I don't know, multiple different times, and the SEC said nothing. The regulator said nothing. Now, all of a sudden, when they didn't give us any rules, now they're saying that we broke it. So in my opinion, I think Coinbase is going to be fine. But just the fact that they're not choosing to play ball with these most compliant cryptocurrency companies tells me that they have a hidden agenda. They're going after they're going after the space in some way just so they can get a little foothold in it.
Okay, so how do you see this regulation, the regulatory landscape evolving then? Because like you said, something bigger is afoot. What's bigger?
CBDCs, to me, that's not an if, that's a when. I think asking, hey, do you think a government will adopt a central bank digital currency is like in the very early 90s saying, hey, do you think this business is going to adopt email? I'm sure there were some people back then saying, no, that's dumb. That'll never work. It's a bubble. But the truth is, it's a better mousetrap. It gives you more control of a currency. For every reason the government likes fiat, it gives them more control with a digital version, a central bank digital currency. It gives them more transparency by the transactions happening. To me, I think that's one of the biggest things that's going to happen with the regulation. And then besides that, I think, and unfortunately, it's looking like this. I hope it doesn't go too far this way. US companies are the ones that are getting pushed offshore or canceled or shut down because they're forced to comply with US regulations, some regulations that were written in the 60s before any usable internet, as opposed to offshore. They're more open, less regulatory, stringent. And I'm not saying one's bad, one's worse. Sometimes you need regulation to prevent scams. For me, I think regulation should make it so these centralized entities can't lie to retail investors, but they shouldn't put a wall between US or between regular retail investors to be able to get in and learn and get involved with financial literacy. So it should prevent big players from lying, but it shouldn't gatekeep average people.
One thing that's changed in Canada, where I'm based right now, is the Canadian regulators are looking into banning proprietary tokens on exchanges. So exchanges aren't allowed to trade their own tokens on the exchange. I don't know about creating a token. So you're seeing things like FTT gone, Binance Coin gone, at least in Canada. Well, what's your view on proprietary exchange tokens and whether or not they're used for anything purposeful?
I think often the biggest use case of an exchange token is that you get cheaper fees. In my opinion, that's a problem that the exchange created on their own. So if it doesn't really have true utility, then I think it's just like a coupon. It doesn't need to be a cryptocurrency. If you don't need something to be censorship resistant, then it doesn't need a blockchain, in my opinion. Now with Binance, CZ, thought ahead. He merged it with the Binance Smart Chain. So that is a DeFi ecosystem, a DApp platform, not as decentralized as Ethereum, because not all blockchains are created equally, but it's more than an exchange token now. So I'm not really, usually in bear markets, exchange tokens often do better if the regulatory aspect doesn't come down, just because they are more centralized and more controlled by that entity, so easier to manipulate. But in general, I'm more of a DeFi guy.
I can't wait, linking this back to CBDCs, I can't wait for the government to issue a token, buy our government token, and then get a discount on XYZ services with the government. I don't know. I'm joking around, but it's not unbelievable, right?
For sure.
We talk about the cons of CBDCs, right? The privacy risks. I get all that, and I hear your point. What are some of the positives that CBDCs could bring to the economy? Faster transaction speeds is one of them. Do you see any others?
Let me frame this in a different way. The positives that I think overall, a CBDC, one, they're inevitable, so they're coming either way, but I think it'll be incredibly bullish for Bitcoin and Ethereum and these blue chips that make it in the end, because number one, as people are forced to then learn what Fedcoin is, what a central bank digital currency is, they're going to naturally ask, okay, well, how is Bitcoin different? Well, Bitcoin has a finite supply. Fedcoin's easier to manipulate. Number two, it's also going to put a crypto wallet in the pockets, in the phones of every single United States citizen, because that's what they're going to have to use to transact. And often, interoperability is big as all these wallets and things emerge. That's going to allow them, get an easier on-ramp that they just got past. They have a crypto wallet. They can easily get involved with whatever that crypto wallet is compatible with.
Do we know if that wallet is a government issue wallet or going to be one, or can we use any wallet we want?
I'm sure, just looking at El Salvador, it will be a government issued wallet. Now, I like what they said they did. They said, this is just an option. We'll make it easy if you want to use the government issued wallet, or you can use any DeFi wallet. The devil truly is in the details. So it better be compatible, but knowing the US government, it easily couldn't be. We'll have to see.
Because if they issue the wallet, they could also shut down the wallet. So
100%.
I mean, that's a huge risk. CBDC adoption, do we know? I mean, nobody knows, but can you speculate as to when it's coming to the US?
My best guess is, one, Biden already has an executive order on crypto in general saying, hey, let's find out what this is. I think all these reports from all these different departments in the government, I think it's due at the end of this year or next year. I think regulation for the US, because of what happened in FTX, is coming sooner rather than later. So I think in the next few years, once that executive order is finished, or as they get more information, that's when we'll get sort of the blueprint for exactly what the CBDC is going to be. And by the way, we're already seeing China do their own version. The United States, truly, currency-wise, doesn't want to keep falling behind for other major competitors globally.
They're already kind of working on it. I mean, we see Canada working on it, the Bank of Canada working on it. FedNow, some people have speculated this could be a stepping stone towards Fedcoin. We did see the Fed say that they want to be a leader of CBDCs. This actually came from Jerome Powell. It's astonishing because you didn't think that the government would be quick to adopt, but they are. So yeah, I'm just wondering when they could hit the U.S.
I think my best guess, and obviously if I get more information, then I'll update my opinion, but my best guess is we'll get a blueprint, sort of an infrastructure within the next 2 years as regulation comes upon us. But I remembered what I was going to say, and this is not my take. I've seen this on Twitter, but there's speculation that USDC, the coin that lost its peg for like a week, a couple weeks ago, because it already has the liquidity, because it's already regulated in the US to a degree, people are speculating that's going to become Fedcoin because that'll just be an easier rollout, or they create their own.
That's going to get attacked and depegged again if they don't fix that infrastructure. So
definitely,
that's going to be a problem if they don't look into that. Okay, Austin, I want to talk about some fun news that your channel covers. You've got a big range of stuff, serious stuff, some fun stuff. This is one of your recent news recaps, which everyone should check out, by the way. Altcoin Daily. I'll put the link in the description. Great weekly and daily recaps. You talked about this trending thing on the internet. Apparently, Macs have the Bitcoin white paper stored somewhere. I have a Mac. I haven't found it. I don't know if you looked into this yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that was Aaron's video. Altcoin Daily is two people, but on our video, we actually walk you through how, I haven't personally tried it, but there was like a how-to video that we showed you in ours on how you can find every Mac computer since 2018, I believe, comes with the Bitcoin white paper, and nobody knows why. So somebody in Apple somewhere is bullish on Bitcoin. Now, David, some people were speculating that, wow, does that mean Steve Jobs was Satoshi Nakamoto? It's interesting because the last public posting by Satoshi was December 2010, while Steve Jobs died sometime in 2011. So it draws parallels. Plus, Apple has now the Bitcoin white paper. To me, it's more indicative of there is disciples of Satoshi all over. Meaning, even if it didn't come from those higher ups, this is just an Easter egg. People bullish on Bitcoin, average, everyday people that work at these major corporations are planting the seeds, putting these Easter eggs in just because they're believers. I think that's more the revolution, not a centralized entity. Oh, he was bullish, Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, whatever. It's that average, everyday people all over are continuing this revolution.
You don't think Steve Jobs is Satoshi?
I think it's possible. I don't think it's probable.
Makes sense. All right. Austin, I appreciate your thoughts. Great insights. And where can people check out your work? I know you have Altcoin Daily, the website. I'll put the link in the description below and to the video that you were just referencing. But I know you're active on social media as well. Where else?
That's right. You can catch me on Twitter, Altcoin Daily IO, or on YouTube. And actually, I want to encourage the audience. Right before David started this new channel, we did an interview, The Untold Story of David Lin. I encourage everybody to check that out on our channel. Awesome interview. Usually, David, you're interviewing other people. We turn the tables on you.
I know I wasn't used to it, but you guys did a great job easing my nerves. So that was my first interview after I started my my new venture. So thank you for that. I'll put the link in the description down below as well. And I think you have a new project coming up in the summertime. Tell us about that.
That's right. So it's a show, and we've talked about this on our Twitter. It's called Killer Whales. I was going to say Shark Tank, but it's basically the Web3 Shark Tank. Now, the difference is it sort of has a younger vibe. It's just going to be going over Web3 products. And what turned me on originally, I'm a huge fan of the OG Shark Tank, where you get to see these professionals, these experts evaluate these companies in real time. And as an audience member, I learn about business along the way. We want to do the same sort of thing for cryptocurrency. As these different crypto projects come in front of the killer whales, the audience will get to evaluate them with the judges in real time. If they're winners or losers, in the judge's opinion, see that discussion. So we're tailoring it just as much, if not more, towards education as the OG Shark Tank.
I actually told my friends about this a while ago, and the first reaction was, "Is this a documentary about marine mammals?" And they were serious. I think that just shows how far adoption can go, because no one understands, or not everyone understands the reference to whales, like big crypto holders, whales. Right? People think it's killer whales, like is it about whales? Is it the orca? Like, no, it's not.
For sure. And by the way, my brother and I will be judges. We have Champ Medici, Snoop Dogg's son, is one of the judges. David, we'd love to have you on as a judge, first or second season. You have huge know-how in just talking to these higher ups. So I think your perspective would really be valued.
All right. Well, I look forward to being part of it. And thank you for being on my show today, the David Lin Report. And good luck to your show. I look forward to following up with you and your brother next time. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.